Hello everyone. We are the student of Dr. Monica Panchani, Associate Professor of Department of Zoology under Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel Cluster University Mandi. Myself Yashika Zambal and my co-worker Yashashvi Rajgor. We both are student of MSc First Sem Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel Cluster University Mandi, and our research work is biodiversity conservation and sustainable development need of the hour. This is the shown abstract of our research work. You can see here. Now it's time for introduction. Biodiversity include various kind of trees, plants, animal, biodiversity, birds, insect, and even microorganisms. Biodiversity play an important role in many ecosystem services. Biodiversity can be genetic diversity or biodiversity within a species. Biodiversity has three levels, in which first one is the genetic diversity level. Genetic variability or diversity within a species, that is between the individual of a species. Example, 5,000 recorded variety of mango, 88,000 recorded variety of Rhiza sativa. Number second is the species diversity, diversity between different species. Example, Felis tigris and Felis domestica. You can show in this picture. Now third is the ecosystem diversity. Diversity within a region. It included alpha, beta and gamma. Diversity at the level of community and ecosystem exists along three levels. It could be within community diversity, which is known as alpha diversity, between communities diversity known as beta diversity, or diversity of habitat over the total landscape or geographical area known as gamma diversity. Now the time is to need to aware about biodiversity conservation. The International Union for the Conservation of Nature estimate that 22% of known mammals, 32% of amphibians and 14% of birds and 32% of gymnosperms are threatened with extinction. Conservation of biodiversity is essential for the human survival, for health, food and industry. This is the shown chart of estimated number of extinctions since 1600. You can show here mammal, bird, reptile, amphibians, fish, invertebrate, flowering plants. In this review article, the concept of biodiversity conservation for sustainable development has been discussed.
Methodology. Secondary information was collected through many resources on internet. PubMed research was preferred on many related topics. Now objectives. To identify the key concept in biodiversity for various sources, to give suggestion to improve the level of awareness on biodiversity among the higher secondary and the college students. The World Commission on Environment and the Development define it as the development that meets the need of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. The sustainable development clearly understands the interdependence of environmental, social and economic system. Conservation of biodiversity is essential for wildlife protection and the human survival through health, food and the industry. By focusing on local people through the public involvement in the development of local solutions to environmental and the development problems, we can attain the goal of sustainable development.
Now the discussion is, India is a very rich in biodiversity and share about 12.53% of world's biodiversity. As our country is developing nation, and for the progress of nation we need development. But the development of industrialization, urbanization and new technologies in agriculture has affected the biodiversity of the ecosystem. Therefore, need of the hour is sustainable development. The sustainable development includes the principle of fulfillment of human needs for peace, clean air and water, and useful and satisfying employment. Student can work for conservation of biodiversity at local level.
Students could be made aware of the environmental problem and the effect on the biodiversity and how they can contribute in the conservation of biodiversity through the proper guidance and the counseling. The first step need to work with the college student to help them develop a conceptual understanding of the biodiversity, interrelated the student themselves with the guidelines from the faculty. Students can work for the conservation of biodiversity at the local level. Compositional aspect, structural aspect, and functional aspects. Number first is compositional aspects. Informs genetics makeup and the habitats of the different plants and the animals.
Structural aspect inform about physical characteristics of habitat and vegetation of the area.
Functional aspects inform about climate, geographical, ecological, and evolutionary processes causing diversity in an area.
Debate and the orientation program should be assigned to students to enrich and strengthen the biodiversity. Conservation education. The conservation-based project for out-of-class activities should also be given to students for real experiences.
College students can set up a biodiversity park in their college campus.
The students should visit to ponds, lakes, river, farms, zoos, factories, quarries and geological sites, ancient monument, national park and nature trails.
The students should study the community of vegetation and the plant formations.
Student can inventory and maintain record of all living beings in their locality.
A biodiversity register is a compilation of the day-to-day observation of the immediate environment. It is a documentation of the knowledge of diversity of the life known to the local people. The record may include traditional knowledge regarding use of various species.
Now the conclusion is sustainable development include the principle of fulfillment of human need for peace, clean air and water, food, shelter, education and useful and satisfying employment.
The World Commission on Environment and Development defined it as the development that meets the need of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs.
Conservation of biodiversity is essential for wildlife protection and the human survival through health, food and industry.
By focusing on local people through public involvement in the development of the local solutions to environmental and the development problem, we can attain the goal of sustainable development.
Thank you everyone.